Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order, Last Days of Europe, with me, Alpha Bar Omega, and the Empire of Japan. So, hope you enjoyed the third report on the state of co-prosperity sphere. It pointed out quite a lot of problems for us, most of the fact that we are the loser of the bunch, which, interestingly, is not what I expected, but alas, the data does not lie, so we have to really do something. Well, of course, focus more on keeping the support for our government high and up, because we don't want to do the same mistake as Kaya did. However, we need to not ignore the fact that our economy is still not growing. The fact that we have a real GDP growth here of 0.13% is great, but the yearly deficit is much higher than that. So, we're still nowhere near the numbers that we need to get to. So let us keep that in mind, and when we see the opportunity, let us seize it and make sure that we can boost it. But before we do that, we have a question of escalation here. The situation has gotten out of control with the subtlety of a raging bull and the speed of 1-2. An Indian-Australian smuggling boat and an Indonesian naval patrol vessel had turned into what might as well have been half of both countries' fleets staring at each other. An Indonesian boarder had gotten lazy and failed to notice a radio operator slipping away to send a distress call. An Australian fleet had responded at the behest of gung-ho admirals, and Indonesia had no choice but to respond. And slowly but surely the waters had gotten more crowded, and those that sailed them more belligerent. Fingers were on triggers everywhere, and conflict was always seconds away. Like every fight, everyone dreaded one, but were ready to start one anyway. That was the gist of the report on the desk of Ikeda Masanosuke. He'd been staring at it for about half an hour, going over his options in his now aching head. Indonesia was in their sphere, and letting them handle themselves would risk reducing the country to the OFN, which would be a massive blow to Japanese hegemony. Obviously, the answer would be to step in and tell Australians to back down. That, however, could lead to Japan herself getting involved, so the answer would be to let the Indonesians sort it out. The cycle of contradictions continued until he was forced into action by a voice. "What are your orders, sir?" asked an official, who Ikeda Masanosuke had forgotten had even been there. He looked back down at the report and was tempted to flip a coin. Instead, he looked up and answered. "Contact the Australians and demand they stand down. Or we can't risk getting involved. Let the Indonesians handle this." Well, Indonesia backstabbed us with nationalizing our assets, so I'm still mad about that. But that doesn't mean we're gonna let Australians, bully them around. Let us just check what the power ratio is. So Indonesia has about 4 factories and 4 dockyards. They got 31 divisions of about 140,000 men. They got 6 ships, and that's it. Australia has 14 ships. They get about the same size of an army, but they are much stronger when it comes to economy. So we have to back them up. Not only because we have actual, territory here. So contact the Australians and demand that they stand down. We'll see what the repercussions of that are gonna be. Hopefully nothing serious. Let me check the... Okay, nothing is going on here. Let me see, I was wondering about the Air Force, because we keep boosting that one. How much more are we missing? Okay, the game will not tell me until we let at least a day pass by. Okay, so we're missing 14 fighters, 375 strategic bombers, and 320 interceptors. Okay, about a year and a half and about 2.5 years for the strategic bomber. Okay, that's much better. Let me actually go ahead, and because we have finished training the Navy and because we have fuel now, I'm going to go and have... Jesus, there's a lot of yous in there. And just let you guys drill. Is there anyone else? Yep, over here, over here. Okay, Hawaii. and nobody here. So let me just review and see what's gonna happen with the fuel. So daily consumption is 8.3 thousand. We will last for about 238 days. And that means we will finish drilling them. That's good. However, it also means that we will not have... okay, 11 submarines here. We can put you guys up for an upgrade to the I-650 class. You guys have been upgraded. You guys and you guys. So these are I-66s. So you could add you guys there. And have 2 10s. Here we have the... how many Yamatos do we have? 2 battleships over here. And we can do 1 battleship. Okay, so we're gonna join the second Kantai. And that actually is it. We really need to figure out what we're gonna do with the Navy. Because I don't think we have a capacity to ignore stuff like that. Can we do something with you? Nope. You guys are done. So carriers are fine. Submarines were discussed. The Tsukaba class cruiser. Anything here that we can upgrade? Okay, the armor I'm not gonna upgrade. So this would improve their batteries. Yeah, for 2 armor, I'm not gonna go with that. But yeah, we can upgrade the cruisers. That will give us some time to, you know, visit our dockyards while we figure out, because I don't want to increase the expenses that we're already paying exorbitantly. Okay, so the House of Cards is dealt in your hand. We're gonna see how much power we lose here. $267 MPs. Okay, so that's not bad. Relations dropped a little bit, but we're still good. What about here? Government stability is 48%. Okay, 45 support in House of Peers, 32 in public. That is not bad. I was expecting it to be worse, but we just need to increase the support in House of Peers. Public approval increases by 5%. We can use that to do something. The shield is broken. Yeah, this one hits our support very badly, but then we get an increase of 7.5. So if I can... faction... power increases, relations increase. That's all good and well, but I need political power. We get 15 here. That is abysmal. So in 21 days I can't really do anything. I could probably just burn a little bit of the public support to get our power increased, but it's barely worth it. Propaganda campaign would be way more useful. So yeah, the shield broken. The Africa Shield was an alliance of convenience between the German colonies of Africa seeking to secure their Großgermanisches Reichsstaat. Between the German colonies of Africa seeking to secure their survival in the wake of the German Civil War. When they invaded South Africa, many assumed that it would eventually unravel, either due to the constituent regime's collapse or an overwhelming military victory. But it came due to a most unexpected cause, betrayal from within. American intelligence has verified reports that Hans Hüttig, Reichskommissar of East Africa, has murdered his compatriot Wolfgang Schneck and forced Siegfried Müller to flee the continent. Hüttig has since proclaimed a Großafrikanischer Reichsstaat, comprising all of German Africa, with himself as the sole leader. However, this outraged the Germans, who declared this new regime illegitimate. Without aid from home, the future of Hüttig's superstate looks bleak. They'll even kill each other. I remember this. And Hüttig was then murdered, I think, by the rebels, though I wonder if Bormann is gonna let this slide or if he's gonna do something. I would have expected him to do something. The Battle of Asuncion. Fulna was never anything more than a coalition united by a common enemy. Thus its collapse into violent infighting this week over the prominence of the communists in the interim government surprised nobody. What was surprising, however, was the deftness with which Rafael Franco and Felix Estigarribia were able to outmaneuver the Communist Party militias in the narrow streets of the capital. The beleaguered communists finally surrendered after a week-long siege of the defenders of Chaco Stadium, and Guevara was put on a plane to Montevideo in handcuffs. But the liberals, he won, if he wasn't shot in the head. With the liberals, Febreristas and moderate Colorados already planning an election, it appears that a long era of political violence in the very nation has come to a close. Whoever takes power in the future will do so without bloodshed. Good riddance to those violent communists. Well, and we need to... Oh, wait, we can go with uniting the Kinkokai. This wouldn't give us... It would give us a support in the House of Peers, which we need. An academic base would improve. Spar of the populists. Public approval. Electoral Reform Act to the Diet. GDP growth increase, public approval lowers, dining with the court. I think we need to go crossing the lines, golfing with the Dovakai, and then petitioning their stamp of appeal. Because that way we can get above 50 quickest. And then we can go with uniting the Kinkokai. What's our relations with the reformists? Cordial. Okay, crossing the lines. There are invisible boundaries, lines drawn in the soft volcanic soil. Well, actually, no. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go with uniting the Kinkokai. That's gonna give us a little bit of support. And then when we finish crossing the lines, we can immediately do a public campaign, which will offset the drop of support. And then we can put it up. Yep, that makes more sense. Uniting the Kinkokai. The study group of the Yokosankai is a key gear in the machinery of our party. Drawing from the best and brightest of modern Japan, its studies are responsible for influencing all factions of the Yokosankai itself. However, a rift has formed within it between the aristocratic philosophers, products of the best private education Japan can offer, and the modernist, populist thinkers hailing from public universities and military academies. These two groups need to be reconciled, lest their rivalries paralyze the Kenyukai. Did I say? No, Kinkyukai, and here it's Kenyukai. Well, academic base and research facilities will start improving. That is a bonus in itself. GDP is not doing great, but not doing too bad. The support and stability is not dropping too much. We have a nice support from the public. Independence. Up to you, sir. Sir, the Australians have made their position clear, said one of the advisors in the rather crowded office of the Prime Minister. So long as they keep pushing the idea that this is just a shipment meant for Canada, we're not going to be able to get them to budge on this. I don't believe it for a second, interjected another advisor. Why would they be flying a foreign flag and hiding the weapons in the damn walls if it was all above board? I don't believe it either, conceded Ikeda Masanosuke. But can we really risk pressing the issue? I mean, our best case scenario is they just keep telling us no, and the worst case scenario is, well, the unthinkable, finished the first advisor. I agree. I wouldn't be so pessimistic. I think if we flex our muscles a bit, we could get them to back down. I mean, those weapons won't be the last shipment to the rebels, and they probably aren't the first either. Letting this slide means letting the rest slide, and that's just going to make things worse down the line, is it not? I argued the second advisor. So you're saying you want to escalate this? We could end up with a war on our hands. Chances are there's going to be a war in Indonesia regardless, and if we keep letting weapons through, chances are we're going to lose. Alright, enough bickering, interrupted Ikeda. I believe it would be in our best interest to let them go. We can't risk escalation. Repeat the ultimatum, see if we can get them to cooperate. Send in the Navy, show them we're not messing around. Let's repeat the ultimatum, the middle ground, and see if they will, get a little bit smarter. Okay, we'll see. We shall see. Actually, I'm thinking, considering how much of an air force we're missing here. What was it? Strategic bombers and interceptors. It might make sense to disband a bunch of them. Or at least a bunch of the weaker. So one strategic bomber, second strategic bomber, first strategic bomber. So you're in Okinawa, Hawaii, Hawaiian Islands. Okay, I'll keep you there. Those are volcanic islands. And Miyazaki, Tianshui, and Keiki, and Bohori. Okay, let me check these ones. Where are you? So I don't think we need you. You. Where's the other ones? Over here. Okay, that's also. And the last one? I don't know where the last one is. Hold on. Tianshui, Keiki, Bohori, and Miyazaki. So, where is Tianshui? Okay, that's not it. Oh, either way, let's disband just these four, which will take care of the deficit we have. Well, about half of it of the strategic bombers wanted. No, actually, it took care of the entire deficit. Okay, and the interceptors, we could do the same thing. Give me a sec. Chaos in the Horn of Africa. Oh yeah. So where's the interceptors? Those are fighters. Here? Yep, jet interceptors. So where do we have you? Oh god. Tahiti, those are carrier fighters. Where did they start? Over here. So we have interceptors in Tokyo, in Fukushima, Karafuto. Oh, okay, so that's this far away. These are okay. We have fighters here, so I think we can disband the interceptors. That's one of them. And where's the other ones? So we have 61 in. Okay, Hawaii I'll keep. Tahiti I'll keep. Shanghai. I think Shanghai is safe for now, so I'll disband you. And one more. Ichiu, Marshall Islands, Bismarck Archipelago, RTX. That's down here, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll need those, definitely. Okay, and you guys actually can stop. I forgot it. I still had you flying, so can you. No, I mean, at least we got something out of it. We can drill. So we need to disband one more. Okay, let's disband these ones in, what is this, Iwaki? The home islands. Okay, well, let's disband you anyway. And that should fix the issue we have with interceptors, shouldn't it? Yep, we're missing 22. Okay, good. So that actually makes sense for us. So what's the news? Domino News reporting live. The reporter cleared her throat and brushed back the hair. Okay. That had been repeatedly blown against her face by the belligerent sea winds. The cameraman gave the thumbs up and she began. This is Ueno Hana, reporting live from the KRI Gajah-Mada. After its return from its recent conflict with the Australian Navy from being referred to as the Arafura Sea incident. Behind her was the deck of the aforementioned ship. Behind, relatively clean, save for a string of bullet holes across the wall. Tonight we are able to bring you to the ship's captain for a full report. The camera crew trailed her through the decks until they arrived in the captain's office. He was a surprisingly young officer, although were the camera of higher quality, one would be able to see the heavy bags under his eyes. Good evening, Captain. We have a few questions for you today, if that's all right, said Hana as she took a seat. Hana means a flower. The captain smiled and agreed, although his eyes remained dead. Let's begin with a short recap of the events of the last week, shall we? Of course. Weeks ago, our ship found contraband aboard an Australian vessel, and they were provided an ultimatum to leave our waters. They refused, and there was a dispute and a misunderstanding that led to a brief firefight. Men on both sides were killed, he summarized. A tragedy indeed. Do you agree with the statement by the Organization of Free Nations and the Co-Prosperity Sphere that the incident was simply a minor skirmish between two sovereign nations that will not jeopardize global peace? The captain paused. The image of a dying sailor with his jaw blown off, trying to scream for help, but unable to form any words, had been burned into his mind since the incident. He gritted his teeth and faked his best smile. Yes. Although this was a tragedy, casualties were low, and it should be seen only as a lesson in de-escalation. An anticlimactic, if uncomfortable end. Okay, so we increased the tension slightly, but it seems like there's not going to be a war. Robert F. Kennedy inaugurated as a president of the United States. For the first time in nearly a century, neither a Democratic nor a Republican will hold the White House. Robert F. Kennedy, from the progressive wing of the National Progressive Pact today, clinched a narrow victory over the RDC to become the next president. Well, hello, mister. In his acceptance speech, Kennedy earnestly thanked the American people for putting their trust in him and promised that he would prove that his trust was well placed. The brother of former President John F. Kennedy, Bobby, had vowed to honor his brother's legacy by championing the cause of the civil rights even further, and to address the issues of poverty and income inequality to create a better and fairer America for everyone. Cynics believe him to be too bold and idealistic to succeed, but millions of Americans earnestly believe him to be the man who can change America. Perhaps his battlefield of choice will be at home. Chaos in the Horn of Africa. It is strange how a storm can be on the horizon for days. That's an interesting sentence. It's strange how a storm can be on the horizon for days, even weeks, growing ever closer and more ominous, yet still catch sailors so unprepared. After all, sometimes clouds are just clouds. Squalls are no more than squalls, and even the fiercest wind and rain only a temporary inconvenience. Today the storm hit Italian East Africa. Several rebel groups have swept through cities and towns, reclaiming mile after mile of the Italian troops scramble to set up defensive perimeters and are often encircled by the more mobile partisan troops. There are more factions than anyone can count, all as hostile to each other as they are to their nominal Italian overlords. They include ethnic groups, political parties, tribes, warlords, colonialist remnants, even the dissatisfied Italian settlers. It's impossible to know when the storm will subside, but for now all of East Africa is caught in its tide. Or not Africa, yep, East Africa. One fire fights one fire, one nail. Okay, so here is Regna de Egitto is a rewired state. Yes, Eritrea, Ethiopia declared war on Oromo Liberation Front, and Somalia is independent. Okay, so that's interesting. World once again inches closer to chaos. Okay, the situation in the Imperial Diet is not changing, which is really good because we can boost the support very soon. Which might put us finally above 50 in the government stability soon enough. Report IN-115N, Imperial Japanese Navy. Attention to IJN General Staff. Subject: Olefin weapons shipments in Sumatra, Sulawesi. First, restoration of full scope of naval interdiction patrols following 1964 budget allowances indicate significant deterioration in maritime security surrounding Indonesia. Second, olefin weapons contraband seizures have been reported off of North Sulawesi, likely origin Australia, in West Sumatra, likely origin India. Seizures are well in excess of previous interdictions and indicate sustained effort to deliver olefin armaments into Indonesia, likely connected with circumstances surrounding recent martial law declaration. Third, Republic of Indonesia naval forces are either not capable or unwilling to exercise authority over maritime borders. The lack of noticeable degradation in the quantity of Indonesian military assets leads intelligence to suspect the latter, a worrying indication of division in an allied military. Fourth, findings of three are corroborated by liaisons in the Indonesian military, indicating that factional division within the military have intensified following martial law. Serious questions about loyalties of Sumatra-based army units, though Navy remains controlled by Sukarno loyalists. 5. Urgent to request additional resources to interdict suspect shipping. Granted, seize as many as you can. So, the Republic of Indonesia opposition forces are weakened. Okay, I don't know if we had a hand in that. So, the matter of think tanks. Ikeda Masanosuke, Ezaki Masumi, and Sato Eisaku are seated in the Prime Minister's office. Of note, Hatoyama Ichiro is not present, ostensibly due to Ikeda assigning him to represent the Prime Minister at a railroad opening ceremony in Tohoku. Coincidentally, today is the day that Ikeda chose to begin a more radical approach in lobbying the Kenkyukai, the think tanks and the research groups of the Japanese Empire, a move Hatoyama would disagree with for being too radical. Gentlemen, sorry to call you up at such short notice, but we've got an important matter left to deal with. Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Kenkyukai. Those of you close to academia would know better than I do, but we've got to lobby them in our favor. The Kenkyukai are, in fact, research groups, the think tanks of the Japanese Empire. Acting as a quasi-advisory body to policymaking, they've transformed into a sizable contender for influence. Receiving backing from official and non-partisan actors Receiving backing from official and non-partisan actors is a credibility boost for any administration. Ikeda, if I may interrupt, lobbying the Kenkyukai isn't as easy as it sounds. You've got the old fogies who want to uphold the nobility above all, And you've got the new fangled reformists. We've got to side with one over the other, chided Masumi. I think, gentlemen, it's time for us to go on another charm offensive. Ikara's cabinet agreed resoundingly to the well-being plans, but were bickering over which faction of the Kenkyukai the administration should side with. The rest of the evening was filled with phone calls and letter drafts to tennis and golf courts, reservations, country club dinners, tea house shadowing, and horseback riding bookings. Hatoyama may not like this, but I'd be damned if he isn't impressed by the charm offensive, Ikara thought to himself. We could go low or high. So this is what this is about. We need to decide which ones we're gonna go with. Depending on the court. So Sparm of the Populists would give us relations with reformists and public approval. Then more public approval, okay, so that would increase public approval by 10%. And then we get an Electoral Reform Act, or dining with the court, political power and relations with conservatives, support in the House of Peers, a GDP growth increase, but a lowered public approval, and then an event. Okay, so House of Peers support is now 47.5, government stability is 49%, we have public support of 37%. If we now go with crossing the lines, we get hit by 5%, so could we... Spark of the Populists. Because I don't want to hit ourselves with the support in the House of Peers until we have enough political power. In 21 days, we will have 39. Let's go first with Spar with Populist, then we're gonna go with Crossing the Lines. We'll increase our support, then we'll take the hit and go with Golfing with the Dovakai to offset it. Okay, Spar with the Populists. Our young populist firebrands have taken up the martial sports. I mean, this is the reform route, so I like that. Our young populist firebrands have taken up the martial sports of the samurai in an attempt at equating themselves to the old aristocracy. It is to them both a pastime and a status symbol, and sparring matches and fencing clubs are the backdrop for much of the populist politicking. Fortunately, Prime Minister Ikeda is a decent swordsman. He may yet teach these young men a lesson or two in swordplay and otherwise. Okay, so we'll see that one in the next episode. And interestingly, Amor is still kicking. I am shocked. Both of them are fighting it, yet... Jesus. Konstantin is a beast. He is still fighting them. Wow. Okay, well, good for him. Good for him.